Good morning. It is day 10 of Space News. My name is Mike. I read the news so you don't have to. Let's just jump right into it. I see two daily telescope articles by Eric Berger on Ars Technica. Webb telescope reveals breathtaking structure of galaxies. Two large galaxies swimming in a sea of interstellar dust. Let's have a gander. It's not as much fun for me at least to talk about galaxies and astrology nearly as much as it is to talk about space technology, rockets, satellites. Also, I just have to look at this astrology. I always screw this up. So astrology is horoscopes. That is wrong. Astronomy. Great start. All right, so we're talking. I don't find it as fun to talk about astronomy as much as I do space technology, but let's get into the astrology lesson. Good morning. It's January 29th, and today's image features a pair of galaxies, one on the left, one on the right. The one on the left has some very large arms. The one on the right perhaps is a galaxy, but from the side. So galaxies in a sea of interstellar dust. Beautiful. Who took this photo? Bode's galaxy is the beautiful spiral and is named after its discoverer, Johann Elert Bode. To its right is the Cigar galaxy, also discovered by Bode. The origin of its colloquial name is rather obvious, I think. Hey, if you're going to be checking out and looking for constellations, you better be doing it with a cigar in hand. Chris McGrew, who took this photo from Central Texas last year, composed the image such that he was able to tease out interstellar gas. We are able to see it by the light of our own galaxy being reflected back at us. The effect is rather stunning. So these wisps around do give you the impression that that is some sort of gaseous material or compound. I don't know. I'm mesmerized by this image because it shows how empty space really isn't empty at all. And I think all of the civilizations in those galaxies looking back at the Milky Way are wondering what else is out there. Interesting. Let's have a look at the other article, the other daily telescope for January 31st, again by Eric Berger. We have a series of constellations, or galaxies, sorry. I'm on a roll today. We have a series of galaxies, all labeled NGC something something, and they have very interesting shapes. Like you have the center of the galaxy, and with this typical spiral arms. But some of them are there's especially this one in the center is almost like a spider's web. The patchwork is I would love to have this on stuff like this on a rug. I would put this in my house. My partner would definitely not like that, but I would put this in my house. NASA's new infrared telescope observed 19 nearby face-on spiral galaxies in near and mid-infrared light as part of its contributions to the Physics at High Angular Resolution in Nearby Galaxies program, or FANGS. Great acronym. This program also includes images and data from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. The Very Large Telescope Multi-Unit Spectrum. Astronomers have combined all of this information to glean new insights into spiral galaxies. So it's a combination of three separate systems: NASA, this very large telescope, and Atacama, large millimeter submillimeter array. One thing that almost stood out immediately was that Webb's images show large spherical shells in the gas and dust. So large spherical shells. Where are these large spherical shells? These spherical, or maybe we're talking about these. I mean, those are the spiral arms. Those are pretty classic. So perhaps the spherical shell is this, which almost looks like an event horizon of sorts. These aren't black hole. Well, they could be. Galaxies can be formed around black holes. These holes may have been created by one or more stars that exploded, carving out giant holes in the interstellar material. Shells. Okay. The study of these structures will provide key insights into how galaxies build, maintain, and shut off star formation. If you click through the link, it's fascinating to see the differences between infrared data from Webb and Hubble's optical images. Okay, so can we click in? Where is... perhaps this is the link. Follow their clearly defined arms, which are brimming with stars. So all of these are stars, which are probably much larger than Earth. Think about that. Think about how many are in that photo. No. To their centers, where there may be old star clusters and sometimes active supermassive black holes. This one, they'll give me the impression that there are supermassive black holes there. Only James Webb can deliver highly detailed scenes of nearby galaxies in a combination of near and mid-infrared light. And a set of these images was publicly released today. So I want to see this comparison. Oh, here it is. So FANGS is the project in question. Is this project responsible for these images? So FANGS was already brimming with data from the Hubble, the Very Large Telescope Multi-Unit, and Atacama. Webb's near and mid-infrared contributions have provided several new puzzle pieces. So on the top left are the James Webb Space Telescope's observations, and on the bottom right is what you would get from Hubble. So we can see the sheer difference in capability of the different spacecrafts, telescopes, space telescopes, televehicles, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. Why? Webb's observations come near and mid-infrared light, and Hubble's showcase visible light. So we can see the detail really changes. The detail on from the Webb, which is top left, it almost, it's like fire. It looks like Marvel movie fire coming at you. How do you even describe the difference? I mean, one way to describe it would be that the arms are much more clear in the Webb image than in the Hubble image. The Hubble image, you can faintly tell that there are spiral arms, and you can see those stars that form, but it's so crystal clear in the Webb image. On the bottom here is strictly a Hubble image, and on the top you have your Webb. What I will say about the well, even in the Hubble image, you can see these hot spots. Like in the Webb, it's sorry, in the Hubble image, yeah, you can see these hot spots. The hot spots, they're in red. In the Webb, you can see them as well. They're a very light yellow in the image. In the Webb, at the center, there's a very clear dot, whereas it fades out. It's quite faded in the Hubble shot. Okay, we're gonna move on. How long have I been streaming for? Interesting. Oh, yes, it is right here. So I'm almost at 10 minutes. And it should move on to other things. Are there any articles I want to run through? I mean, everything's Daily Telescope, Daily Telescope. How long is this article? Okay, this article is pretty short. Let's do that. So we're going to talk about the Peregrine mission. This is the mission where the second stage, the vehicle on the second stage, the Peregrine, had a leak in one of its systems and therefore was unable to make it to the moon along with all of its cargo, some satellites and such. Very unfortunate. And also, I believe Astrobotic is on it. It was a SPAC. So it went public via special acquisition. It was a vehicle, a SPAC vehicle. So some company buys its way into the New York Stock Exchange or some other exchange. It has an IPO as a shell company, and then a company can buy its place on the exchange by just merging with that SPAC, special acquisition company. That's it. So it's a blank check company or a shell corporation listed on a stock exchange. There you go. Those are the words that make sense. So the SPAC lists on a stock exchange. Another company that actually has a product will merge with it, and now that company is considered public. It was a popular vehicle about 3 or 4 years ago, and a lot of them have started to go under. I believe Astrobotic is one of them. Let's just try Astrobotic SPAC. I do not. I understand why it thinks I'm trying to say space, to be fair. Okay, that doesn't help me. I don't know if by being on this page, this is telling me that Astrobotic is one of the SPAC companies. So here are the SPACs: Virgin, Momentus, Astra, Spire. So Momentus is in trouble. Virgin's already gone under. Astra. Okay, so maybe I'm confusing Astra with, who is Astrobotic is the company, right? It's not just the name of no, Peregrine is the name of the vehicle. So Astrobotic is a private company. Yep. So Astrobotic, not SPAC, doing all right despite the failures in the Peregrine mission. Here is a camera on the Peregrine, and we can see the bubbling underneath here. That's fuel being leaked. So the attempt was to land a commercial spacecraft on the surface of the moon. During the startup sequence after separation from the ULA rocket, so the Vulcan, one of the propellant tanks ruptured, spewing nitrogen tetroxide into space. The incident left Peregrine unable to land on the moon, and it threatened to kill the spacecraft within hours of liftoff. The CEO said, "What a wild adventure we were just on." Hot take. That's actually a very kind of not unpolitical statement, in my opinion. Astrobotic's control team, like you would imagine, he would say something like, "Astrobotics is committed to the highest quality and the highest standards," and Astrobotic's control team, working out of the company headquarters in Pittsburgh, swung into action to save the spacecraft. So they fought trying to get the batteries, the solar panels into sun pointing position. Over time, the situation stabilized, although it did not have enough propellant remaining to attempt a descent onto the moon. Peregrine continued on a trajectory out to 400,000 kilometers. Astrobotic's original flight plan would have taken Peregrine on one long elliptical loop around Earth. Then the spacecraft would have reached the moon during its second orbit. This is giving me Kerbal Space Program vibes, where you start your maneuver, and you're not going to quite meet up with the moon yet, so you do a nice little loop, you throw yourself around the Earth, and then you fire off into your maneuver plan. So on its way back to Earth, Peregrine was on a flight path that would bring it back into the atmosphere, where they would burn up on re-entry. That meant Astrobotic had a decision to make. When they stabilized Peregrine, should they attempt to engine burn to divert the spacecraft away from Earth onto a trajectory that could bring it to the vicinity of the moon, or should they keep it in line to burn up? So first, So the malfunction that caused the propellant leak appears to have been with a valve that did not properly reseat during the propulsion system's initial sequence. So valve the words reseat and valve are new to me. Maybe is this common or is this artistic freedom? No. So there's the valve. There's no audio on this clip, by the way. You're not crazy. Okay, so it is a thing. This valve acts, so I assume the valve stayed in a upright position. That's what it means. Reseating, it seems, would mean that it comes back and closes the valve such that no liquid or whatever substance they had in that area could go through, could exit chamber 1 into chamber 2. This valve activated to pressurize the fuel and oxidizer tanks with helium. So it sent a rush of helium into the oxidizer system. Then a little over a minute, the pressure had risen to the point that the oxidizer side, that it was well beyond the proof limit of the propulsion tank. And so overpressure, you're going to experience some ruptures. So the CEO outlined some obstacles. One of the engineers devised a solution to reorient the spacecraft to start recharging. So they're trying to make the best out of the situation, both from an engineering point of view and very likely from a PR point of view. So the leak had practically stopped on January 15th. When did they launch? I don't see a date. So launch. It was January 8th. God, I love the internet. That was so fast. So 7 days after the leak had practically stopped, maybe because they were just out of fuel at that point. Mission controllers powered up the science payloads aboard the Peregrine lander to prove the instruments worked and demonstrating the spacecraft could have returned data from the lunar surface. Okay, so NASA stepped in. They were the primary customer. It had 5 NASA-sponsored science instruments. Yikes. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. NASA... So this is all handled, the connection, the money connection between NASA and Astrobotics is the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, which is a NASA program to get money in the pockets of private companies, private space companies, might I say. So what they were pointing out and what we were concerned about was the engines and the fuel systems were not in normal condition. Okay, so we can see the Peregrine's trajectory. It starts here on the top side. We'll call this the North Pole of Earth. It does a full orbit of Earth, where at the end it will start to fire its rockets probably around here, this point, and it'll do a full burn maybe up to about here, and then it will have gained the appropriate trajectory to get itself out to the into the Peregrine sphere of influence. Yes, I am using KSP terms. Come at me. Based on everything that Astrobotic had communicated very openly and transparently. Anything else? So the NASA science payloads were approximately valued at 9 million. That's okay. NASA had awarded contracts for 7 more CLPS missions. Later this year, Firefly Aerospace could launch its robotic moonlander on a CLPS mission. So another private company putting vehicles on the moon. Astrobotic is developing a much larger spacecraft called Griffin to ferry a NASA rover called Viper to the moon's south pole. So NASA is all over the moon right now. People were talking about how the US had given up on space. that's not what I'm seeing. And you know what? I think this is very likely a direct attribute to SpaceX. Dropping the cost of launching vehicles into space means that there's more availability for engineers to get their hands on working to work in the space industry. And when you have more people working in the space industry, it's going to foster more innovation, more creation. And now we have a lot of people that have the confidence to build devices that can go into space and operate as we want them to. It's awesome to see. The North Americans are doing it. Let's just say the Americans are doing it. Although I haven't seen too much out of South America at this point. The Europeans are obviously all over this, and in Asia, India has a fantastic program. China has a fantastic program. Russia has a fantastic program. So, all right, I'm going to end it there. I hope you all have a great day, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.